NoFap and why you should stop now. Before we dive into the video, let's first discuss what NoFap is. I will be making a more in-depth video on this, so make sure you hit the bell icon and stay tuned for that as well. So back to the topic. NoFap is essentially, it covers the PMO cycle. PMO stands for prone masturbation orgasm. Therefore, NoFap means restraining from viewing any sort of sexually explicit material, touching yourself, or orgasming. Even though there are different types of NoFap, like classic NoFap, hard mode NoFap, I will discuss all these in my next video, but the bottom line is essentially keeping yourself away from all these factors I just discussed. According to scientific evidence, pornography has the same effect on our body and mind just like drugs that are amongst the most addictive, such as cocaine. This is because of something called dopamine. Dopamine is a reward hormone in our mind that is released to give us that feeling of happiness and that we have achieved something great. For example, you just got out of bed early and you go on a morning run. That sense of achievement and pride right after you have completed that morning routine is because of dopamine released in your mind. So what effect does pornography have on your dopamine? The answer: pornography or any sort of sexual stimuli that includes the PMO cycle is the most dopamine-inducing activity that can be experienced naturally. This is since, whilst you're watching your naughty websites, your dopamine level rises to around 200% of your natural dopamine level. Look at this graph on the screen, comparing the effects of sexual stimuli that it has on your dopamine level compared to other natural substances, unnatural substances. So that includes drugs like cocaine, and cocaine can raise your dopamine level to around 300%. And it can only keep it there for a couple of minutes. But pornography, on the other hand, that can keep your dopamine level at 200% as long as you like, as long as you keep providing your mind with that pornography stimulus hit. And on the other hand, why is this bad for you? Well, because if you watch pornography for a long time, your dopamine level are artificially tricked into staying at very high level. That's 200% of dopamine level, as we just saw in the graph. So what happens over time is your brain is tricked into thinking that this high dopamine level induced by watching so much pornography is actually what the normal dopamine level should be. So how the brain does this is by shutting down dopamine receptors over time and desensitizing neurons that would otherwise be responsible for providing you with that sense of achievement and motivation for completing your day-to-day activities. But since your normal dopamine is so low, the only way you can get more motivated and get a hit of that dopamine is by watching more pornography. And so you go around and around in your addiction cycle. More pornography you watch, more dopamine hit you get. And you keep your dopamine at a high level, because otherwise you will drop back to your low dopamine level, which your brain now recognizes as its natural state. This is about the time when you don't feel like doing any work, you just want to stay in bed all day, keep sleeping, and the only feeling of pleasure you feel is when you watch pornography and fap off. According to scientific evidence, there are many effects low dopamine levels can have on you. These include fatigue, mood swings, social anxiety, and this is also why many guys, they feel shy to just go up to girls and talk to them, and they let this off by saying, oh, I just don't find these girls attractive. The truth is, it's not that the girls aren't attractive, but because you only get the dopamine hit from seeing the unrealistic figure of girls that are presented to you when you watch pornography. Other effects include low libido, stress, lack of motivation to do any work, memory loss, and so on. Many guys just stay in this cycle and keep bombarding their mind with so much pornography because today's society actually believes that pornography and PMO is normal and nothing is wrong with it. But each pornography you watch acts like the sniff of cocaine, desensitizing your mind to any sort of motivation, one hit at a time. Refer back to your childhood, when your dopamine levels were at a normal state. Everything seemed so beautiful, just like a fairy tale. Having a run in the park gave you motivation, being with your friends seemed amazing. And don't just lay it off as good old times, but even now in life, you can experience the same enjoyment in everything by renormalizing your dopamine level. Because it wasn't until you started watching pornography that running in the park was no longer enjoyable. Being your friends just seemed scary because you thought you have social anxiety. Even though all this information might be scary, but the good thing is that your dopamine levels can be brought back to normal, even after all those years of bombarding your dopamine levels. It wouldn't happen in a day, or a month, or even 2 months, but it is possible. I will make a full video on how you can bring your dopamine levels back to normal and the timeline to that normal state. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay tuned for that video. As always, please leave a like, share the video, and leave any comments or questions you want me to answer in my next video.